So I get this question a lot from my clients about what they should be paying per month on certain costs, like overhead costs, software costs, wages for their marketing costs. They always want to know, like, am I spending too much? Am I spending too little? Or they just have no idea. So I wanted to create sort of like a cheat sheet guide to really help to answer that question. I've got two tabs here that I'm going to be going over. The first tab is just kind of like our ballpark. This is the kind of idea. There's three sections really. And then we'll go over here into our actual numbers, which is really interesting to see how this all breaks out with real numbers. So let's just go over this part first. So this is for a typical service-based small business. Now, these are just benchmarks. Obviously, every business is different. It matters also like what kind of industry you are in, but just as like a general concept. So let's start with the big one, wages. Wages are always going to be your biggest cost whenever you are running a business. No matter if you're looking at it by month or by year, it's always going to be wages. And typically you're going to spend around 40 to 60% of your revenue. So if you are bringing in $10,000 in revenue, 4 to 6,000 of that is going to go to wages. Now, the important part here is to realize that wages includes owner pay. So it's not just your team that you should be paying 60% to. That also includes you. So that includes employee wages, contractor payments, payroll taxes, if you're running payroll, and your owner pay. If you are over 60%, if you go back to your books and then just kind of do a quick calculation on last month and you're like, oh shit, I am over 60%, you likely are experiencing a profit problem. You're either in the negative, maybe you're having like big cash flow problems, maybe you're just having a hard time paying yourself because 60% is what you're paying to your team right now. So you want to really dive into that number if that's what you're experiencing. If you're under 40%, you might have great profit, but you might be underpaying yourself. You might be understaffed. You might be thinking like, man, I would love to hire some people. So you have room in there to do that if you're right around 40%. The second category is sales and marketing. So this is like ads on Facebook, Google. This is, anything related to content creation, email marketing tools, any agency or freelancer support within sales and marketing. This is any cost basically that is helping you get more sales and bring in more revenue. So the benchmark for this is anywhere from 5 to 15% of revenue. If you're in early stage growth mode, you might want to be going up to 20%, even temporarily, just to like really put the muscle there and to get more clients in the door. If you're under 5%, if you're spending under 5% on sales and marketing, growth will probably feel a little slow and inconsistent. That's like a pretty low number. If you're over 20%, you really need to keep an eye on your ROI, your return on investment, because that's a lot of money that is going to this. You want to be making sure that it's actually paying off, that 20% that you're spending isn't just vanity metrics. You're paying someone to help you with your social media and they're like, woo, we got, a lot of likes on these posts, but did it actually convert to paying clients and more revenue in your business? And then the third category is your operational costs, which is basically everything else. This is everything from software, rent, office supplies, office expenses, insurance, legal, subscriptions. It's like all those other expenses that you need to run your business. And this is going to be anywhere from 15 to 30% of revenue. If you're over 30%, you likely have subscription creep or inefficiencies in your business. I personally think 30% is pretty high. I try to keep mine down towards 20%, 15%. So if you're seeing that, you go into your books and you do a quick calculation and you're like, oh shit, I'm at 30% of revenue just on overhead. Take a look and see if you've got subscriptions or things that you can cancel. That's going to give you an immediate profit boost. And then here's the simple gut check formula. If we combine it all, You want your wages to be somewhere between 40 to 60%. That includes owner pay. You want your marketing costs to be 5 to 15%, and you want your operations to be somewhere between 15 and 30%. And this also leaves, you're not just bleeding your whole monthly revenue. You're not just taking that down to zero. That's also leaving a 10 to 25% profit. You want to have profit built in there too. So pretty simple. Let's go over to this tab and we're going to go through the 4 stages. I'm calling this the 4 stages of your business. So stage 1, I'm calling it the operator stage because this is where you are doing everything. This is generally the first 1 to 3 years. You are operating lean and mean. You're always operating lean and mean because that's what you do in a business. You don't want to be spending frivolously. You're doing all the work. There's no wages or contract payments here. It's all on you. You get a client, you're doing the work. But you are making a paycheck of $100,000 in that first year. You're going to be needing revenue of $120,000 a year to do this, and that leaves you with a positive profit, net profit of $12,000 a year. And this is how the percentage of revenue works out. So you are paying yourself 83% of this $10,000 a month, which is $8,333. That equals a $100,000 paycheck. Wages, contract labor is zero. You're not paying anyone. You're doing everything yourself. You only have a small budget for marketing and sales, but hey, $300 a month, you can do some Facebook ads with that. That's not too bad. Your operating expenses, again, you're keeping everything super lean. You're not doing meals. You're not really doing travel unless it's really going to give you a return and bring in, like maybe go do that conference if you really think you're going to be getting clients for that. But other than that, you've got your minimal subscriptions, and you still are doing a 10% profit, which is $1,000 a month, which is the $12,000 a year in profit. So that's great. So again, you need revenue of $120,000 a year, and that is $10,000 a month. So that is stage 1, the operator. Everybody wants to get out of that stage as soon as possible. I'm hoping that happens for you. Stage 2 is the systematizer. And this usually happens between 2 and 4 years of business. It could be quicker, it could be longer. It really just depends on how aggressive you are with doing this. You're still operating lean and mean. You're always operating lean and mean. But this time you are building systems to handle the growth that is coming in your business. You are intentionally building these systems knowing that down the line, you are growing to this CEO stage, but you also have a little budget here to hire your first employee to help do your client work, whatever that is. You've given yourself a raise in this example. You're getting a paycheck now of $132,000 a year. You need revenue of $240,000 a year to achieve this. That is revenue of $20,000 a month. And then you're going to end up with $28,000 a year in profit. So let's look at these percentages. So owner pay, you've come down a long ways because you know you have to hire someone. So you can't keep paying yourself 83%. So you've come down to 55% of revenue, which is still really high. But again, you wanted to give yourself a raise. So now you're making, that's $11,000 a month and you're making $132,000 a year. What you're paying people is 15%. I don't make these percentages here. Okay, what you are paying your employee is 15%. So this is a part-time employee. They're making $3,000 a month. Maybe they're, someone who is, remote working, or they work closely with you. Doesn't really matter. It's up to you. Marketing and sales, you've upped your marketing budget because you're like, okay, I need to bring in more clients in the door. How am I getting this $20,000? I'm going to put some more money into marketing and sales. Whatever the avenue with that is up to you to decide. And then your operating expenses, you've doubled your revenue, so I'm doubling the operating expenses, especially with hiring another person. You're going to have to give them an email address. You're going to have to give them subscriptions and access. So all that goes up. And then your profit, again, we're still at 12%. And again, if you're like, I actually need someone to work more than this, so let's just dip into the profit a little bit. Let's only do 10% profit. That allows me to pay someone 17% of revenue. That gives me a little more wiggle room. Or if I didn't quite need this much of a pay increase, if I didn't need a $32,000 raise, maybe I only need a $20,000 raise from last year, going from 100,000 to 120,000. Check that out. Now I really have someone to like help me do a lot of the work. If I'm paying someone $4,400 a month, what is that? That's $52,000 a year. That's almost a full-time employee or 2 part-time employees, depending on, what you're doing. So it's very possible. And you're still profiting. You still have a $24,000 profit at the end of the year, which is great. Okay. Stage 3, the scaler stage. So this is anywhere from 3 to 5 years of business. You might be, quicker, or it might take you a little bit longer. You're still operating lean and mean, always watching your expenses and your spending like a hawk. You have systems in place to handle the growth, and you really now start at this stage to scale and hire help to do the majority of the work. You're not really doing too much of the client work at this point, maybe some of it. You've again given yourself a raise. You're getting a paycheck of $168,000. But again, maybe you want less to be able to put more into your wages. You need revenue of $480,000 a year to do this. That is $40,000 a month. So how many clients is that? It could be 20. Could be 40, $41,000 clients a month. That's definitely doable in 3 to 5 years for sure. And then you're going to end up with a positive profit of $48,000 a year. So let's look at this again. So owner pay, again, you've dropped down from a 50% of the revenue to 35%, which is still more than last year. You're making $14,000 a month, $168,000 a year. Your wages have crept up a little bit to 35%. That's still very much within range. So your total wages out every year are $168,000. This could be like for 2, 3 people, maybe, 1 full-time, a couple part-timers. Your marketing costs, we're keeping that the same at 10% since our revenue has doubled. That's $4,000 a month. You should be able to get some return on that investment and be getting clients in the door easily if you're going to have that kind of a budget. Your operating expenses have increased a little bit from 8% to 10%. And then your profit, we're always trying to keep that at least at 10% so that you have this $48,000 at the end of the year. Now, maybe you're thinking, okay, operating expenses are going to go up higher than that. Maybe those are going to go up to 12%. And then maybe you don't need $168,000 a year. That's a huge raise. Maybe you're cool with 32% of revenue, $153,000 a year. That's still like a $30,000 raise, a $33,000 raise. That's crazy. And then you can even pay your contractors a little more. So it's really fun to kind of play with these numbers and really plan this out. And then finally, the most exciting stage of all is what I'm calling the CEO stage. This is where stage 4 of your business, 4 to 6 years, maybe more, maybe less. You're always operating lean and mean, always keeping an eye on your cost to make sure they stay in range. In this stage, you are leading, you're deciding, and you're driving strategy, not execution. So that means you're not doing any client work. You are up here. You hire a manager to run your business operations, manage your employees, and all client work. So this is a really exciting stage because you are really kind of hands off on the day-to-day. You've given yourself a raise. Again, of course, you're a CEO, you need a raise. So now you're making $220,000 a year. You need revenue of $960,000 a year to hit this. Now this kind of might seem scary to some people. It's like, whoa, that's almost $1 million. But again, you're taking 4 to 6 years to get here, and you are building super intentionally to get here. You're putting this strategy in place. This isn't just happening on a whim. This is intentional strategy. And then you end up with a positive profit of $96,000 a year. So this requires $80,000 in revenue per month. So again, that could be anywhere from $81,000 a month clients, $42,000 a month clients, $24,000 a month client. I had to think there for a second about that one. It just really depends. As your business grows, your service offerings are going to grow. You're going to become more experienced. You're going to be able to charge more for your services. So really, when you back into this, monthly revenue and how many clients is that, or how many offers do I have to sell, or like, how do I get to this number? It really just depends. So again, your owner pay is kind of dropping back down into, this lower range, but on this amount of revenue, we are still making more, almost 70,000, just shy of $70,000 more than we did last year. Maybe we don't need to make that much. Maybe we only need to make 20% of revenue. Well, let's keep it so we're making $200,000. So what is that? Yeah, 22%. Let's say we're up. Now we're making multiple six figures. That's exciting. We can pay a little bit more if we want. And right now we are exactly at 60% wages combined with owner pay. We are at 60%. So that is within range. But maybe you're really keeping this lean and you don't want to put that extra percentage there. Maybe your marketing spend is up. Yeah, let's keep it here. Because to do the work of an $80,000 a month business, you're going to need that. You might even need a little bit more than this. You might need 40% here. Ooh, that puts us at 62% for, our owner pay plus wages. That's over the 60% benchmark. You want to be careful there. So you either come down here. Now we're at 60%, or you say, you know what, for my business, that makes sense and I can make these numbers work. So I'm okay with having 62% in pay, in wages and pay. And maybe my marketing and sales, maybe I don't need to be spending $12,000 a month on marketing and sales, maybe $10,000 a month. And that is still helping me bring in clients to get to this 80,000. And my operating expenses are still super lean. We don't buy anything unless it is actually helping the business make more money. Profit is still 10%, and that's almost $100,000 in profit at the end of the year. So I hope this helps you to see how looking at your numbers and being intentional with the numbers can really help you to build an amazing business in just a couple of years. If you are starting a business or you have an existing business and you're really struggling, or you're like, I've been at the operator stage for the last 5 years. How do I get to these other stages? Or I'm not even at the $100,000. I'm not even making this a year yet. And I've been doing this. I have this really great course. It is called 100K Paycheck. And I walk you through step by step how to get to 100K paycheck. And I really go through how to look at your own personal reports, how to pinpoint where the profit leaks are, and how to really plug those leaks and get your profit up and also get your pay up. So if you're interested in that, I'll link it below. And I thank you for watching. Bye.